What's up, guys? Wiggy here, workingclassfitness.com. My boy Sean asked me some really awesome questions here on Facebook yesterday. He'd been watching some of my videos that I've been doing lately on strength, and he wanted some clarifications on some stuff, and he asked not only a lot of questions, but a lot of really good questions. So I'm going to kind of try and bring you up to speed on like what he was asking, kind of clarify a few things, and then address his questions. I'm not saying that I'll be able to get it all in this video. I may break it up into a couple videos here, so I'm just going to kind of start rambling here, and we'll see where it goes. All right, and if I have to stop and go to another video, we'll just do that, and we'll just play it by ear. All right. So the first thing that Sean says, he realized that there were kind of three ways of, or he said the way he looked at it, there was kind of like three ways of looking at strength. There was first there was strength that could be had as a result of myofibrillar hypertrophy. Now that is the type of hypertrophy or muscle building that you get when you do a lot of heavy weightlifting, a lot of heavy training. You produce a lot of force. That's when the cross sections of the muscle fibers themselves actually increase in size, and they contract harder. So as a result, that gets you like that real dense muscle that gets you a lot stronger. There's the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. That's what you get when the sarcoplasm, or like kind of the goo inside the muscle between cells, increases, and you get that from lifting with a lot of volume, usually a lot of higher reps. That's why you see bodybuilders with that. Some people have said that, oh, well, it's because of steroids and this and that, and that's really not the case. If you take a look at a lot of Olympic lifters or sprinters or powerlifters or whatever, there's tons of those dudes that have very dense physiques and have that dense muscle, even though they're on steroids or other performance-enhancing drugs, whatever. But they get that as a result of the very heavy, kind of low-rep type lifting. So there is the strength that's associated with either one of those two types of hypertrophy, and then there are just kind of neural gains. The idea of going out and training your nervous system to get better at expressing strength. And basic question is, he had watched one of my earlier videos where I had talked about how strong is strong, and I kind of thrown out some recommendations out there relative to body weight. Being able to press your body weight, bench 1.5 times your body weight, squat twice your body weight, deadlift 2.5 times your body weight. If to kind of normalize it. And his question more or less was, well, if we don't want to gain, if strength should be compared to body weight, and we're using body weight as a factor, then theoretically we don't want to put on a lot of excess size. So if strength is a factor of basically how much you weigh, then doesn't that kind of end up restricting you to the neural gains? Because if you take a look at the two types of hypertrophy, well, that means that you're adding size, you're adding weight to your frame, so that kind of makes that whole idea kind of counterintuitive. So wouldn't that kind of, if you're looking to gain strength at your current body weight, then wouldn't that mean that you would be then kind of restricted to neural gains, gains in the nervous system? And are those really applicable? Because he had read that many times that such gains are applicable to the specific lifts themselves. For instance, training yourself to squat twice your body weight. If are those neural gains specific to the squat, and can they really apply to anything else? So is it even really worth squatting twice your body weight if you're, let's say, a martial artist, or an athlete, or you just want to be a badass in the real world? Is it worth doing that if those neural gains are only applicable to the squat itself? Okay, so I know there's a lot going on there, so let me try and address it a little bit at a time here. Number one, the thing to remember is, if you are inducing it, well, first of all, we're going to take sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, and we're just going to forget about that, because we're not really interested in that, as athletes or whatever. If you're into bodybuilding, that's cool. Knock yourself out. That's just not what we're going to talk about here. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of it, throwing some size on the arms, because you want to impress the chicks or whatever. That's cool. Go for that. I got no problem with that. But if we're going to talk about hypertrophy, for the most part, it's going to be myofibrillar hypertrophy. So let's say you put on a little bit of size there, and you add a little bit of muscular weight. Well, let me back up just a step here. For one thing, if we're going to talk about strength in relation to body weight, realize that all that is that's just a way of normalizing it across the board. You know, in my old video, or in one of the videos Sean had watched, I had talked about, let's say, you know, you've got three guys, one guy that weighs 130 pounds, another guy that weighs 185, and another guy that weighs 320. You can't tell all three of those guys they all have to bench 300 pounds. It's just not, you know, accurate. It's not applicable to all three of those guys because they all weigh radically different amounts. So if you kind of want to normalize it across the board, you've got to make it in relation to your body weight. So that's the whole reason for using body weight in the first place. It's not a matter of saying, you know, strength is a function of body weight. We're just comparing strength to body weight so that you have some idea of where you stack up in comparison to other people that weigh different than you. You know, so if you can bench 250 pounds, how does that compare to a guy that benches 185 pounds, yet maybe he weighs a lot less than you? Or how does that compare to a guy that benches 430, but he weighs twice what you do? You know, it's just a matter of comparing yourself to other people so that you can then, you know, analyze what you're doing, analyze what other people are doing. It's just kind of an anecdotal, you know, tongue-in-cheek kind of deal. So if you see a guy that is benching a lot or squatting a lot for his body weight, you can take a look at what he's doing and say, oh, well, is there something there I can apply? Or, you know, it helps you analyze yourself and say, well, is there something I'm not doing right because I'm not holding up to the same kind of standards this guy is, or whatever. You know, that's the whole reason for you know, kind of comparing strength and body weight in the first place, as one is a function of the other. Not to say, oh, well, you know, we're out of body weight, and so we're only going to stay at that body weight, and that's it. So as a result, strength has to be determined by body weight. So know that, number one. Number two, just because, you know, so let's say we're not interested in adding body weight. You know, you weigh 200 pounds, so you want to squat 400 pounds. Well, weighing 200 pounds is weighing 200 pounds is weighing 200 pounds. It doesn't really matter. You know, you can have a guy that's 6'3", really lean and muscular. You can have a guy that's 5'2" and fat as hell. Okay, both those guys still weigh 200 pounds. You can have a guy that's 5'9", relatively chunky. 6 months later, he could be still 5'9", same body structure, but yet be at 8% body fat. Still 200 pounds. You see what I mean? So body weight has nothing to do with body composition. So if you undertake a strength training program and you induce some myofibrillar hypertrophy and you end up adding a little bit of body weight, that doesn't mean body composition can't improve. You know, if you add 10 pounds of muscle, first of all, 10 pounds of muscle isn't that much. You know, people like to throw around terms like 20 pounds of muscle, 30 pounds of muscle, you know, whatever. On a lot of guys, you know, 10 pounds of muscle wouldn't be overly noticeable when it's spread throughout the whole guy's entire body. So, you know, when you think about 10 pounds of muscle, 20 pounds of muscle, although that sounds like a lot, and it is, it's still not such a crazy amount that it would be, you know, an overly huge difference, you know, visually when you just see a guy. So, you know, that being said, you know, a guy could conceivably gain 10 pounds of muscle as a result of intense strength training and myofibrillar hypertrophy, yet all he has to do is tweak up his diet a little bit. He loses 10 pounds of body fat, and body composition has improved, body weight has stayed the same. In fact, he could even lose 15 pounds of body fat, let's say, add 10 pounds of muscle, he's going to be stronger, his body composition is going to improve, and he's actually going to even, his body weight's going to go down. So, don't necessarily be afraid of myofibrillar hypertrophy. You know, the only people that would necessarily be afraid of that are people that are already very lean and that are, that compete in weight classes. You know, wrestlers, powerlifters, you know, fighters, obviously, you know, boxers, anybody. If you compete in a weight class and you are very lean and you have to cut weight to make that weight class and you're kind of borderline bumping up weight, that's really the only time, you know, you should worry about it. You know, as a regular guy, even, you know, you shouldn't give it in if you gain a few pounds of muscle, lose a couple of pounds of fat. It's not that big of a deal. So, this video is running a little bit long. Let me go ahead and run into the next one, and we'll start the next one here. Hope you like what you got so far. Subscribe to this channel. Hit up the link coming up so I can send you some more really cool free shit. All right? Talk to you later. Train hard, rest hard, play hard.